Speaking of this bull market, I actually had Checkmate on recently, and we spoke about how that probably kicked off in about October last year, and that's when things really started sort of taking off. Where do you see this particular bull market going? I mean, obviously now we've got this momentum with mainstream finance coming on board. We've got the halving, or the hardening rather, or the healthening, depending on who you ask. In April, I know you're not a fan of price predictions, but I guess just talk to us a little bit about the momentum that you're seeing from a bull market perspective, and anything that could actually derail the narrative, because it feels as if these tailwinds are just so strong, and just when you think things are really a shoe-in Bitcoin, it comes in and hits you in the ass with reality, as it were.
Yeah, Bitcoin has this habit of creating maximum pain for the most number of people. When everyone's really bearish, then it'll go up 50%. And then when everyone's exuberant, like the ETF launch, it'll pull back. It'll pull back 10 or 20%. And then everyone will be like, oh, this thing is over. There is no bull market. It does have a habit of doing this. Where this bull market is going, I think this will be a longer bull market. And I think my view is that the price could go much higher than people think, just because the ETF being approved really exposes this to a much, much bigger audience. I think in this bull market, Bitcoin, I don't generally don't give price predictions, but I think Bitcoin is going to bite off a very big chunk of gold's market capitalization. So gold right now has a market capitalization of around $13 trillion, and Bitcoin has a market capitalization under $1 trillion. So it's less than 10% of the size of gold. I think Bitcoin is going to take a big chunk of gold's capitalization. So maybe 30 to 50% would not surprise me in this particular cycle. I think over 5 years, I generally talk in terms of like 5-year time horizons. I think Bitcoin is going to then overtake gold's market capitalization. So that would give you a price on Bitcoin somewhere between 500 and 600,000. You need to look at the demand for gold and where it comes from. I think about 40% or so of gold's demand comes from jewelry use. So a lot of that is in the Middle East and India. And that is actually the right way to think of jewelry in places like India and the Middle East is really an ostentatious store of value use. So an Indian who's buying gold and wearing it is buying it as a store of value that they can wear. It's wealth that they pass on through the generations. Indians typically, in weddings and when they give dowries and that sort of thing, they give gold, and they pass it on, their savings on through the generations. So it really is a store of value use case. But so I don't think that is going to be dramatically affected as Bitcoin goes up. I don't think that demand is going to transfer over to Bitcoin. And another big chunk of demand comes from central banks. Central banks hold a lot of the bullion, as in the non-jewelry use of gold, which is bullion investment demand, comes from central banks. A lot of gold is held at the Federal Reserve, US Federal Reserve, and other central banks around the world. I don't think that's going to change either as Bitcoin rises. I do think, though, the high net worth individual investment demand, like family offices and other rich individuals who are investing in bullion, I think a lot of that demand, however, will move over to Bitcoin. And so at the margin, I think you will see a decrease in gold's market capitalization, but it won't be dramatic. What I would imagine is that Bitcoin, say, gets up to 10 or 11 trillion in market capitalization and gold goes down a little bit. But I don't believe Bitcoin is going to go up to 13 trillion and gold is going to go down to say 1 trillion. I don't think they're going to switch places like that.
Yeah.